All right, what's going on, everyone? This is Conversations with Brian and Elijah, episode number 6, I believe. And today we will be discussing the problems with education and how a lot of society's problems can be solved through a comprehensive education system.
No, and I want to pick your brain on this. So, what do you mean by solving education? Because when I talk to people about this, they say let's put more money at it, and I think that may be the solution. It may not, but that doesn't. It's not where I'm really concerned. I think that we need to change education on a fundamental level. So, when you say increasing education? What do you mean by that? How does that look?
I think I would mean more like making it more accessible to people. That everyone, K through 12 is now free for all of America, right? That's been free for a while now. But I'm not sure if that's enough. And then I think what you're getting at too, and I agree too, is radically changing, or maybe radically changing the way that those systems are structured and the way that they teach people to be more open-minded about things. And then also higher level education too, right? I think that should be more accessible.
What do you think about the internet though? I mean, like any piece of knowledge, if you have a cell phone and you have access to the internet, there's very little what you can't learn. So is accessibility really the issue, or is it people's desire to pursue education?
Interesting. Yes. Yeah, I could see it being people's desire to pursue education, but I think when I said accessible, I meant more of making the piece of paper that validates your education more accessible.
But
right?
but doing that, right, wouldn't that decrease the value of that certification?
In terms of like being paid afterwards?
No, like kind of like supply and demand. Like if there's the reason why a degree back in the day was so valuable is because not everybody had it. But if everybody has a degree, well, that degree is it's not really worth anything anymore because.
But the population in general is more smarter, right? Which would, I think, lead to a net positive to society.
But do you think that people with the degree are necessarily smarter?
Compared to people without? Debatable. I think they have a higher chance of being smarter than people without a degree. But that's true. That's true. It's not if you have a degree, you're automatically smarter than everyone else. No. But I think there could be an argument that maybe you're more open-minded.
Let's do something real quick. Like, I think this is really interesting. This is like very, very interesting. Like, perhaps we just release this part of the podcast. Honestly, this is, but what do you think about, or how do you define education? Like, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
No, I mean, I love it. I love when we get to definitions because that's honestly every philosophy class where they start is in definition. Because you can't have a debate about anything if you don't agree on
what you're debating. Yeah. Okay, so here we're gonna look this up in real time. So I googled education definition, and I got the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, especially at a school or university. And then the other one says an enlightening experience. That doesn't do it for me. I don't know. What is your definition? Like, how would you define education?
I mean, education is a systematic, structured way of creating knowledge or
let me change it. What would you say what's an educated person?
I think an educated person, I mean, I got to go back to that open-mindedness. I feel like when you're educated, you're only in pursuit of knowing more and becoming more well-rounded on different topics, and you're more open-minded because of that.
Okay.
Is what I would say.
One of my favorite quotes is by Aristotle. He says, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." Meaning, other people have paraphrased this by saying that an educated mind is someone that can entertain two opposing arguments and believing one of them. Right? For example, someone that is educated on economics would be able to entertain the pros of socialism versus capitalism and vice versa. And the fact that they're able to entertain both sides means that they have a well thought out understanding of both sides of the argument, which makes their current belief really valuable in my opinion because they have thought about the alternatives. So I think, yeah, an educated person they're knowledgeable, and they're knowledgeable about that certain topic, and they're able to go into it, if that makes sense, if I'm getting out of it. But what do you think about that quote? It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it.
Yeah, I think going back to kind of philosophy a little bit, I think that hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Is it good?
You kind of got frozen a little bit there. Yeah, there you go. So I think going back to that about how literally everything is false until proven. Think about things. Just because you can entertain so many viewpoints, and all of them are false until you prove one of them or maybe a couple of them true, which can kind of make you a pain when it comes to debating things, because you don't accept basic things to be true until you prove them to be false, or when someone says something, you automatically need proof.
What about self-evident truths?
What?
Self-evident truths.
Like?
Interesting.
You're kind of cutting off a little bit there, but what were you saying?
Like self-evident truths. What about those?
Yeah, like for example, what kind of self-evident truths? Are there any self-evident truths?
I mean, I'm not even joking with you. I was gonna say the fact that I exist, but I know you are gonna say, well, how do you know you exist?
Yeah, well, well, no, you do exist.
Do I? How do you know that?
You do.
How do you know that?
You do. Your mind exists, but you can't necessarily prove that your body exists. Well, because even if you try to prove that you don't exist, you still have to think about the fact that you don't exist. You understand? So your mind exists. Just you can't prove anything else per se.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I want to branch that far off, but the mind is so interesting to me, and being able to think and whatever, because thinking, and I got to think more about this, but thinking in a sense, from my understanding, once again, I got to think about this more, but thinking seems to break the laws of science. Because your brain is governed, everything in the universe, the materialistic universe, is governed by certain laws. Why wouldn't your brain and the molecules that interact there, why wouldn't those be governed and determined by those laws? And if they are, that's just molecules in motion, molecules reacting to each other. Therefore, that's not really independent thinking. It's kind of bound and determined and dependent upon the environment and the person's surroundings. So they're not truly thinking. They're just merely reacting. but thinking would be different. And so this is a whole thing. We've talked about this before, but I'm fascinated with this concept because it seems to me that thinking supersedes certain physical laws, which in a sense goes out, goes beyond the realm of the materialistic universe. Does that make sense what I just said, or are you like, what?
Yeah. No, for sure. I think like thoughts or thinking is the only self-evident truth. Going back to that, just because you can't disprove that you are thinking.
Yeah, you can't. Like, for example, you can't prove logic because you have to use logic to prove something. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't use the thing to prove the thing. That doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You can't use logic to prove logic.
Interesting.
I mean, so yeah. But going back to education, right? Because I think this is a really interesting, really productive education. So would you agree with the definition of Aristotle?
That educated
Is able to
entertain two opposing arguments.
Yeah, basically, yeah, paraphrasing it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. And that goes back to being open-minded.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if that was the case, I think Albert Einstein has a quote too where he said that true education is not teaching someone what to think, but teaching them how to think. And we talked about earlier how debating with using premises, right? That is a great way to argue, and it's a great way to get closer to the truth. That's a form of how to think. If we taught people to think like that, if you want to believe something, have certain premises. If this is true, then that must be true, and that's the conclusion. But I don't think
thinking with premises, yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely I think teaching people how to think would be really beneficial for society. But I couldn't agree more with you that education is like the thing that would number one impact society.
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
You're kind of cutting off a little bit.
Yeah, I know the internet's kind of getting bad. Hold on. Tell me if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're just kind of staggering a little bit, but I could adapt. I hear you. So education. Yeah. Do you think that every grade level should take a philosophy class?
Well, what do you think would be the purpose of it, and why? Like, why do you ask that?
Well, just because you're kind of quoting Aristotle, but I believe it's have you read The Prince by Machiavelli?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, in it he says that this a long time ago, but he says that the best ruler, the best king should be a philosopher king, because they know how to think about things and rule that benefits most of society. And he also said some other things like it's better to be feared than to be loved, but we won't even get into that. But
that's another podcast.
The reason I say that is because it seems that philosophy has some that's a whole other podcast. But the reason I say that is because it seems that philosophy has principles that can teach people how to be more open-minded, and teach people how to pursue the truth in a more efficient way. So maybe it would be beneficial to have some basic ways of thinking classes in elementary school, middle school, high school, that sort of teach you how to think about things.
Yeah, no, I think that would be really beneficial. Like, teaching people how to think is I'm definitely in favor of that. And I honestly do think philosophy classes would be great, because philosophy, one definition could be a way of life. And just studying ancient people and what they believe, like, you know, some of the different philosophies could really help people with the problems they face in their everyday life. There's that aspect of it too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think philosophy has like all around good ways of teaching thought. I think that could be beneficial to society in a sense.
Yeah, definitely. And so like, yeah, no, yeah, like, man, education is great, but
Important.
the thing though about education, right? And I read this, I think it was Seth Godin who actually said it, but he said that like you can't educate someone who doesn't want to be educated. They have to enroll themselves. And so like having kids in a classroom that they're forced to go to, they're not going to get educated unless they want to be there. So how do
you can't really force someone to learn, you know?
Yeah, but is there a way to make them want to learn, to get them more interested to want to learn? And I think that might have to do with teaching them things that are useful, like really useful for practical use, like philosophy, and things that they're interested in, their passions, you know? You notice people do well in their elective classes?
Yeah, because they chose to be there.
Because they chose to be there.
That makes sense.
We have too many classes where people don't choose to be there. I mean, what is calculus going to do for an artist? But calculus is going to do a lot for an engineer, 100%.
Yeah, man. I one of the things that, just talking about college more broadly, that I just did not like was this whole GE thing, in college. The first 2 years of college, you have to take general education. So you have to take, chemistry and a bunch of different things. But, I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'm paying to learn something I don't really need, and I think that if you were to kind of change the college system to where, maybe it's a year, or maybe you just get rid of GEs in general and just pursue what you want to learn, that could radically bring down the cost of college and make a bachelor's degree more valuable.
Yeah, I definitely think that, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. Like it's weird how that works. Everything else, it seems like we get to choose what we're buying. But with college, it's like, well, you're buying this because you want this, but you also have to do this thing too.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess there's value in learning general things, maybe in elementary school, middle school, high school.
That's another thing too, that I when I think about reforming education, believe me, I think about this a lot. This is, it's weird. The more we talk, the more we literally have the same beliefs. That's what I'm starting to notice. It's kind of scary. But the biggest thing that I want to find the ratio or the amount, and I don't know if it's even possible, but it's how much specialized knowledge do we need and how much generalized knowledge do we need? And I think I swear we talked about this before. But yeah, I think everybody needs to know math, but do they need to know calculus, or do they just need to know multiplication, division, subtracting, adding, and and maybe a little bit of algebra? Like, how far do you go?
Yeah. I think,
and others would argue too, though, that no, calculus is good because it teaches you a different way to think. I hear that too, but I don't really buy that so much, because it's like, that may be true, but is it worth the resources and time?
Yeah. There's a really good business metric that I love to compare everything to, and it's called the point of diminishing returns. Yes, diminishing marginal returns. So the idea is, to talk about it in a business sense. If you were to start a business and you hire an employee, that employee is going to bring you productivity, right?
Yeah.
But there's a point where if you hire 100 employees, they're all going to make each other less productive because, they're going to be close to each other, and there's a point of diminishing returns, right? In the same way, there's a point where, if you learn that extra thing, it won't really help you as much. There's a point where the curve kind of starts to go down, or it doesn't grow as much. And God, there has to be a way to like turn all that stuff that you learn into data, and then use that data to help you learn more efficiently. Like I think we should, we love talking about big data on, collecting on Facebook and all this different stuff. Why don't we collect data on what students like to learn and what they don't like to learn, and then kind of offer them a more individualized track? I think that could be interesting.
No, yeah, but I don't know if we could do it that
easily. Yeah, it's not easy
in that amount of time. Like if you're starting it, I don't know what's going on. Hold on one second. All right, I'll make my last point, I guess. Yeah, I swear I'm still 18. I still live at my parents' house. They're calling me for dinner. But I guess the last point I'll make before we end this podcast, which has actually been a long podcast, but it's great. Our conversations just naturally go. But last point is like, there should be more big data on schools. And like, I think that's what's so hard about changing it is people don't want to mess up the system, because as soon as they mess it up, it could really mess things up. But innovation attracts failure. But in order to advance things forward, you need innovation. So I think, we do need more data. We're going to need more testing. We're going to need more ideas, theories, more creativity, and less just accepting that this is the way the system is, so let's keep it that way. No. Let's change the system in pursuit of a better system, not just keep going because we're scared of failure.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we got to do with the school system.
Yeah, 100% I agree. Change it in pursuit of truth, which is a better system
and a better society. With that note, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
And this, Conversations with Brian Elijah, episode number 6.
See you guys later.